if you give us too much shit, we'll just get pissed off and quit. So don't do it. It's time for Marvel Comics Spotlight Show, telling you everything that we know. It's time for Marvel Comics Spotlight Show. Let's go.
Let's go indeed. Here we are with the Weird Science Marvel Comics Podcast, episode 95, Legacy 595. I'm here with my man, Matt. What up, Matt?
What up, Jim?
Me and you have two books straight from your stint in the Weird Dose of X is what we have here. I forgot to mention that right away, that you were moonlighting or cheating. Seems to be something going around in these parts, but the idea where you were on the Weird Dose of X with Ruben, I heard you yipping and a yapping with him, and at the end, he legit sent me a message and said, I feel like a fool. I didn't know that you and Matt were laughing and making fun of us about Spider-Girl, and I fell for it when Matt brought it up. So
I did bring it up, I did.
He thought that, but then I said, I don't think Matt was doing it to make you look bad. It's just a funny joke.
That's a joke. Yeah.
And I even said to Ruben, straight up, nobody's reviewing that book. Not us, not anybody. Me and you will do the next issue or so. It doesn't look like a book that's going to have any staying power anyway. So I said, you guys don't have to do it. I don't even know that they didn't understand.
It's just messing around with them.
Yeah, we were just messing because, again, we like to, say that it's there. Then again, they go with stuff like Imperial or whatever. They'll eat that up, but it's nothing to do with them. But here we go. But again, if you are doing an X-Men podcast, you probably should have read the Dark Phoenix saga. Did you mention that at all?
I did.
Okay, I didn't hear that. I was as I was editing, but here we are. Me and you are going to be talking two books. We have a big number one, but we're going to start with The Amazing Spider-Man, and then we'll get to Cap. I don't know what to talk about that Cap. It's an odd book. I think that people will be lukewarm and say, well, it's a start and maybe this will be interesting. Did you know going into that book anything of what it was going to be or like the tone of it or where it would be presented or what time?
I had no idea.
I had no idea. It
all.
actually threw me what they're doing. But we'll get to that in a second because we're going to start with The Amazing Spider-Man number 7, written by Joe Kelly, pencils by John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna on inks, colors by Marcelo Menez with Eric Arcienega, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, edited by Nick Lowe. I don't know if you know that fella. And on the front page, you end up having one of the worst pictures of Peter Parker. I hate that picture. I like it a little more than whenever we had that one that looked like he was like a puppet. But it's like a weird, hey, look at me. It also looks like he's missing teeth. It's a weird picture.
I don't like it.
Yeah, Black Cat looks kind of odd, too. Hellgate looks okay. Jay Jonah's there, barely in the issue. And then Norman, who isn't. That's the reason I brought this up, is because Norman isn't even in the issue. And he's got those high rising shoulders and a lazy eye. Some weird deal. The cover's pretty cool. I like that.
I like the cover, yeah.
And I'll give you the recap. Peter Parker's life is finally going well. We talked about this last issue. No, it wasn't. It might have been for a couple days after he was high as shit, after he ended up fighting a cosmic battle of 8 Deaths of Spider-Man and actually died. I don't know where his life was going well. He squashed Hobgoblin's latest scheme with the help of his long-lost childhood friend Brian Nearing and did so without losing his new job at Rand Enterprises. Doesn't say in parentheses, but was high as shit. Also, thanks to Brian, he solidified Norman Osborn, once his greatest enemy, as his staunchest ally. That was solidified in Zeb Wells' run. What are they talking about? He fixed things with Aunt May. Again, fixed twice at the end of Zeb. I didn't even like Zeb Wells' run, and they're like walking all over it. He even found time in his busy Spider-Manning schedule for Black Cat, which means he got busy. Then Hellgate arrived. Hellgate, who, as he arrives, doesn't necessarily at the beginning even bother Peter and thinks that Peter thinks he's just some dude who might play Warhammer at the local comic store. I'm talking D&D-ease with him. And I'm telling you again, it's Joe Kelly talking to the youngsters. Hey there, fellow teens. And you end up having Skyrim or at least Elder Scrolls, things that you didn't even get. You end up where he's like, I'm D&Ding. And he's like, well, there is the kingdom of the Hobgoblin. I'm like, this guy has an axe. he definitely ends up looking like he's on molten lava fire before he actually explodes. At this point, he still is something different. This does not look like a cosplayer. This does not look like some guy who's just like, hey, I took a wrong turn at Albuquerque and missed my D&D night.
He's like 8 feet tall, too.
Yeah, 8 feet tall, in armor, axe, and Peter's like, no. Black Cat, you don't get it. We're talking D&Ds. I got the lingo. Now,
he's got
in the
spikes
meantime,
on his shoulders.
yeah, at the meantime,
He's wearing a helm.
His Spidey sense is kind of going, but isn't. So you might be able to play with that. But in the meantime, it's because the guy hasn't attacked him yet. But that's what he's going to do when he starts saying. I mean, the guy shows up and says, Nicodemus, or whatever, second of her line to be cursed with the far sight, bade me breach the what is it?
Like
the
size
soul
spurrier crap.
wall and cross the away lands. I'm like, anybody who says that, you got to get away. Even if you think this guy's on the up and up, you run. Now, at one point they do, but then he says, so that I may parlay with you, Prince of Steel Silk. I am the Hellgate. And you're like, well, I'm gone.
You run into these kind of guys on the New York City subway every now and then.
Yeah, and you don't engage.
No, not at all.
And then if you're Spider-Man, when you have fought what seemed to be, I mean, pretty much, the whole deal of the Sidorak, all the stuff in the 8 Deaths, terrible stuff. You've already dealt with that. Also, this reminds me of Rabin shit. I'm waiting for Paul to show up and go, hey, that's my second cousin. And you dealt with that, and it was bad. So you don't just hang around and say, no, it's fine. I got this. And then says, hey, we're going to parlay. After I'm done, we got to deal with these people. And what Hellgate does, he's like Superman with Batman. When he really needs Batman he'll just go and round up everybody. But instead, Hellgate just jumps off the building and blows everyone up.
I thought that was pretty funny.
They're all dead. And he goes, now we can parlay. Like, oh, really? A parlay? He's like, I'm not a betting man. He just made
a crater in the street.
Oh, yeah.
That's like $1 billion of damage right there.
Yeah, and again, a lot of times, this one guy argued with me and said, Marvel never kills people. DC's the one who does. I'm like, DC never does. It's Marvel. They'll let a guy like Hellgate. They're all dead. Now, you could sit there, and you do see the effort to say, oh, these are hobgoblins, guys, as if they don't matter. But they're damn blown up. And then he says, we can parlay. He says, your enemies are felled. Now we can parlay. Spidey goes, what the hell's wrong with you? Call 911, Cat. And she's like, I'm getting out of here. And even then she goes, everything is so dark. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Because the art doesn't look dark at all.
No. And I thought it was like one of those where Hellgate was doing something to make a hellscape that she couldn't see through. Or is she saying, this is bad, dark shit? I don't know, but it's weird. And then you end up, and she's still not calling anybody. Peter jumps down and goes, maybe it's not as bad. Oh, shit, it's bad. They're dead.
He's checking the guy's pulse. Do you think you can do it with those gloves on, though?
No.
It wouldn't work, right?
Even then, I mean, I can kind of guess. You might not. Maybe check somebody else's pulse. This guy looks like his helmet's part of his
eyes are
brain.
bleeding.
Oh, his whole head is just caved in at the top. And he's like, I wonder if there's a pulse, but there isn't. And then you get, crossing to the away lands is forbidden. It must be so obvious to you. And he's like, they're all dead, dude. And he goes, you don't kill people to get someone's attention, you psycho. And the big thing is the Prince of the Steel Silk. I'm like, it doesn't even sound like anything that you would end
it's
up.
just like Spider-Man lore crap.
I know that it's like the spider deal, whatever, but it just doesn't seem right. Then he puts hands on him, he shoves him. And he shoves him into a car. And you get that bad broken glass again. He's like, man, I hope you enjoyed that refreshing taste of sucker punch. Because I'm going to get you. And he has some comments in here that, again, that they're not funny. They're more eye-rolling. And what it ends up being, in my mind, is you have Joe Kelly. Most people want to have a little bit mature Peter. You want to have a job. He's not the Peter Locke. Oh, my God. But when somebody like Joe Kelly writes him, he then reverts Spider-Man to be an 8-year-old. He's an 8-year-old in the basement, saying stuff like, hey, poopy head. That's what he goes with, when indeed Peter is actually at the beginning saying, and I think he's trying to play both angles. He's trying to say, look, Peter is keeping a job. He's going to be more responsible. They're not going to give us Mary Jane and Peter in the family. But that's not why. Everybody doesn't want just that. They want to have Peter be able to not be that woe is me Peter all the time that always loses his job and always does that. They just want something to stick. And he kind of seems like he wants to do that, but then he gets to 8-year-old stuff and yells poopy head a lot and things like that. But in the meantime, then you go to the Port Authority bus terminal and you get the guy it's Hermes Crenshaw, who seemed to be like a conspiracy theorist. He was in the first issue of this run in the backup by John Romita, who was the guy who realized that Hellgate had come out. Most of the other people seemed like they were completely killed and buried in sand. He was like, oh my God, it's happening. I don't know where he went from Arizona to Illinois, but he seems to be here from Illinois now. And he gets off. This one lady has to yell at him. And he's like, hey, I got to get the hotline. She's like, you called the Avengers? You called the Fantastic Four? They ain't listening to you.
And talking nonstop for 5 hours.
5 hours. And the problem is he really wasn't talking to anybody. He was just calling and leaving messages. So you end up and some guy named Fred, who we don't know. We'll see a guy later, but we're not sure. But then he says Fred is actually Captain Universe in this timeline, I think. And he has a device. So is this guy a guy who knows of a multiverse, knows of a, kind of alternate worlds and things like that? Because he's certainly talking that. But he also was played out as being a crazy Looney Tune in that first issue. Like they didn't like, oh, he's here. Oh, my God. But I don't know. He's there with these devices. It looks pretty fancy. And then he goes, oh, my God, he's here, seemingly at Hellgate. And he's like, you got to get back out. Get off the island. Get off the island. They're not going to listen to him. And, of course, then this lady hits him with the umbrella. I think he should call the police. But
he says, get bent, you weirdo.
Yeah, get bent.
I haven't heard that one in a while.
No, and again, I mean, this is an older lady, but it doesn't. I don't look at her as the get bent type.
No,
right? No. So she hits him with an umbrella and tells him to get bent. What a badass! But then you go back to Peter fighting Hell's Gate, and he's just like, "Hey, fight me! Don't hold back! You aren't worthy of what they told me. I want to see the Prince of Steel Silk. I want to get that." And finally, Peter does wallop him a bunch. He's like, oh, thank God. But all Peter's doing at this point, webbing him, that didn't work. I'm going to throw the cartridges at it, make an explosion. That didn't work. And then he decides he has to kind of punch him. But then he remembers, oh, at one point, Uncle Ben told me that he'd teach me to run and fight. All right. I swear to God, if I go to the back, because I didn't read it, if Nick Lowe says that this panel made him cry, I'll slap somebody.
He might.
He might. But then you end up
you also had Black Cat shooting machine guns. That was weird.
Yeah, she's doing her thing. I hope she didn't call 911. She's going right to the slammer. But yeah, and he's like, oh my God. And he says, hey, here's what gets. Now, Hellgate comes from a different dimension that he talks like, he's medieval warrior. Even almost like a Norse warrior at points or whatever. Maybe Roman. Whatever you would say, a centaur. This guy's saying like, thou hast been called to the deal. And what gets him is Spider-Man goes, hey, Smellgate. And that seems to affect him enough because he goes, Smellgate, eyes up here. And then he goes, need to keep this freak isolated as possible. A little playground taunting should poke him in the ego. He's not going to know what the hell you just said.
So somebody that uses that dialect and from that time period would not know what Smellgate means.
Smellgate.
No.
Right.
It wouldn't register with them.
It would be like saying, hey, buddy, take the L. You
take
like
the
that.
L to
talk to
a
the
medieval
hand,
person.
Biddy. It's not going to work.
No.
And that'd be Joe Kelly would think that the kids nowadays say talk to the hand. Talk to the hand, Smellgate. And he's like, why? Thus I want to talk to my appendage. Like that would be the stuff, Smellgate.
Everything's literal.
Yeah, and he gets so upset about it seems Smellgate. But he's there, and then you end up, Jay Jonah's missing all this. That's the little bit. Hey, get up, slacker. Been too long. Lunch this week? And we're like, what is going on here? And so then there's Spider-Man getting chased. And at this point, legitimately, Spider-Man is just leading Hellgate on an eve of destruction. He is leading them through New York City so Hellgate can shoot now laser fire attacks to blow up buildings. It's not very responsible.
I got to get him to the Central Park where it's not as many people.
Yeah, I better get to Central Park. Maybe everybody's still gathered there for the gang war. They end up going, and there's nobody ever hanging out in the afternoon in Central Park. So he's there. The cartridges go. I didn't even know what that was, but it ends up being the steel where he look at this. Look at these webbings. But
he said it's 1 month's salary.
1 month's salary.
Insane.
So are you saying, do you think that means that they are very expensive, or that Dr. What's-her-name and Nearing, they're underpaying him? Like he gets shit. Like
I mean, I don't. Yeah, you're right. I thought he didn't. Yeah, he has a job, so
he has a job that's a pretty good job.
Yeah, so he's got to be making decent money.
Yeah. So,
and then they start with this Bob Bomb joke or whatever.
Yeah,
Web Bob
Bomb, and I'm like,
is that what that is?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe
either.
we're out of it. We're like Grandpa Simpson.
Web Bomb.
Bomb. I'm like, okay, yeah. And so when that's going on. And everything's a failure. And he goes, it's not a failure. It's an experiment. I'm going to learn. In the meantime, then we have some guy. And is this Fred? No, Fred this isn't Captain Universe.
No, Captain Universe doesn't look like this at all.
Yeah, no. So this is just some guy on a scooter that seems to be like electrified a bit, has a shield that looks like it's kind of a capsule, but it's like this weird, and he just goes on the scooter, looks completely ridiculous. And then almost runs into someone. He goes, sorry. And then it says, a new player ventures out on a collision course with an uncertain future. I'm like,
aren't we dealing with pretty soon some kind of nonsense where there's two Spider-Mans?
When aren't we dealing with nonsense?
And one of them's in space or something?
The one's going to be, maybe this is cosmic.
One of them's in space.
Because this is so nice, you have to do it twice. This book sucks. It's not good. And people were on almost the rebound. We even last issue a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Some people went a little too far with it, but this is just nonsense. It ends up where he's fighting Hell's Gate. Hell's Gate is kind of impressive looking a bit, but I've seen this kind of design over and over again. Like I said, it reminds me of Rabin's shit. It just reminds me of everything that we've had. And then Spider-Man's just there trying to hit it and realizes I can use the underground bit of the what's it called, the CO2 or whatever.
They have to heat the stuff up.
Yeah, the
nitrogen,
something. Liquid nitrogen. It's there for what is the cables, the fiber optic cables, and the things.
So it cools down. Yeah,
so it cools him down. So he ends up where he does now the frostbite bomb. And then he freezes Hell's Gate and just says, I think that'll work because he was kind of on fire. And now I froze him. He's just sitting there. Peter, at this point, you got to do something. You don't just talk shit while you're standing there. And if science wins the day, hey, by the way, I called you, Smellgate, pretty cool, right? He's just talking nonsense as you see him defrosting all this shit out, and he doesn't move. And then he says, oh, man, everything's quiet. Everything's back on track. Oh, maybe not. What do you think you're going to do here? This Hell's Gate has been blowing up New York City, chasing you. You have frozen him, but what is your plan? Not just stand there. He goes, I think everything's fine now. I don't think the police are going to be able to contain this guy anywhere. I don't think you're going to have to take him to the raft, number one. So you got to start doing shit. You got to get a hold of somebody, and he's just there talking shit.
I guess you're right, but on one hand, what did he do wrong?
Well, that's the thing.
Why is Peter even attacking him?
The only thing that is, he was shooting fireballs. He just wanted to talk. He was shooting fire, and he killed those people. He killed the hobgoblins. Before that,
he just wanted to talk to Peter.
That's the thing. If you go with it, if Peter would have just parlayed with him in the beginning,
he just wanted to parlay, which means have a conversation.
The parlay may have just been. Now, again, what do you think? Because now that's when it goes back to 8 Destiny, where he's come from this other dimension. He's going to say, we need a warrior to come and fight this, that, or the other thing. Peter, oh man, no, my life is so good now, I can't leave. It might have been that, but he never let him do that. And then you're taking somebody who he really played off as a joke. Hey, I'm talking D&D's. Hey, and made it set up to basically say, I can't talk to you until I talk to or deal with these guys. So he killed them. He killed them to talk to Peter, and he doesn't know any better.
No, he's just like, this is a means to an end. I'll kill these guys, and then he'll go talk with me.
Just imagine, if aliens show up tomorrow,
they don't
aliens
care.
From a cannibalistic society that might as they're going to do what they know. And that's what this guy's from. And he's like, no, if I need to parlay, I'm killing. So there you go. But, in the meantime, it's a bad scene. And now Peter, like you said, what are you going to do, though? I mean, he's just sitting there. He froze him, but you can't think this is going to be forever. And I'm surprised he doesn't sit there and say, well, we'll just use him as a statue. Here in Central Park, all the kids will like the birds will shit on him. It'd be great. And he says 3 lines, and the guy starts defrosting. You didn't win the day. You put him down for a second. That's when you have to figure out things. And he didn't. Where's Black Cat with the machine gun? But yeah, in the minute, going deal and seeing the, tribute to Butch Geist, which is a sad deal, but just a shout out to Jim Shooter as well.
Yeah.
Who ended up dying this
He'll
weekend.
be all over this soon.
He's a legend. Yeah, he will be. And I think Butch Geist and especially Jim Shooter deserve to be. Some of those others, I don't want to be mean and throw shade at people who died or whatever, but I forget the one guy that we did. We were like, this guy's still around.
Some guy was like related to a TV show or something.
Yeah, it was like some weird thing. And, I just want to prove that we're pieces of crap. We're like, this guy again? But at least at this point, I'll give them one thing. They at least made it that Butch Geist's thing is at the end. Because remember how many times we almost stopped reading because we thought it was at the end with these things going on. But in there, there's Nick Wilson.
So on the last page, he's defrosting and freaking out. I was going to ask you if you think he's wearing underwear or not.
I don't think so.
But you can kind of see through on the last page.
Oh, yeah, on the last, you see junk.
Are those his, I guess those are his
I think that's one testicle.
Yeah, he's commando, basically.
Or it's a wee, as we say in the business. It might be that as well.
Because it's the same color as the skin, right?
Well, yeah. You're not getting undies just there, and it's too high on the sides to have undies.
Did he really need to draw the split and the slats like that so you could see?
I guess he did. I guess he's and that's maybe he wants Peter to make him some undies because remember in that one thing with what's his name Kevin Smith we had the ripped pants so maybe he found out about that and he's like listen I'm going commando, you froze my testicles, you jerk. Is
Hellgate an actual gate? Because he looks like he's about to like open up and he can walk through.
Yeah, he does look like he might. Maybe that's the play. He's like in that it'll open up and it'll suck him in.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's the case, I don't know why the gate needs a wang. Maybe if that ends up being the doorknob, that'd be the best. Yeah. Peter starts like trying to open the door and you hear him moaning going on. It's like a little harder, a little to the left, pal.
You gotta twist it a little bit.
Yeah. So then Peter ends up freezing him. And then when he comes out, he goes, there you are. That's the prince I was promised. Show me more. I'm like, I think you're showing enough, pal. Like you're showing everything. Peter's like, okay, here we go.
Well, that's the thing too. He's a prince. So obviously he's royalty of some sort. Peter is.
I think that, he's saying Peter's a prince.
Yeah. So they like him. They're not going to attack him.
That's what I'm saying. I think that they're just a little more, militaristic. They're a little more, like I said, might makes right. They show up. He wants to talk. If he doesn't get to talk, he's going to kill people that are making you not talk to him. And then they have a thing that they want to do. It feels like he wants to get him to listen and go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. And that's, again, that kind of played out like the Spidey sense was going once he attacked. But at first, it really wasn't. And he was saying the black cats. We'll have to see. And then I saw something, and it's actually the way these things play out with the review copies. And I saw somebody talking about Itsy Bitsy. I thought it was actually Nick Lowe saying it, but it was a letter. Somebody lying and saying they like Itsy Bitsy. Maybe it was Gray. He's turned on. But what would you give this?
I didn't even think about that.
Tough.
I'd give this one a 5.5.
I think I'm just giving it a 4. Yeah. I like John Romita's art in general, but it's not what it was, obviously. I think that the design of Hellgate's okay, but it's kind of generic. As I said, the story itself just is nothing. It's Peter. If Joe Kelly wrote Peter, that didn't sound like he was just desperately trying to write Deadpool in my mind. I know the quips. Everybody can say it all they want, but Smellgate, again, that's an 8-year-old thing. Peter is a little better than that, I think now, but that's it.
I think the art is okay. I would have toned down the colors like 30-40% down and make it a little more
maybe you could have
gloomy.
had like Hellgate shows up and when Black Cat says it's all getting dark, maybe you could have had like
it's too bright and cheery for what's going on.
Crazy things fly in.
And the stuff's happening at like 5 a.m. Who's up 5 a.m. doing stuff?
And that's the weird thing. When they say that, then I was like, what'd you say? Like it looks like everything's fine. And in the middle of it, they're getting off a bus and it's crowded.
It's crowded, way too crowded.
I know the buses have schedules and whatnot, but it just seemed weird. Like there's not even people getting off me getting off a bus at 5. I'm looking first for coffee and I'm yawning. I'm not sitting there. And even that, she says, you've not taken a breath since we left Illinois. She should have said, you were talking all night. Just that last night, however long it would take. But they don't even say that. It didn't even look like it was morning.
Yeah.
But there you go. We're going to move on to the next one. This is long, but I think it might be quick. It is Captain America #1, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Valerio Schiti. or shitty if you want to go. The guy wasn't nice to me at one point, so I'll say shitty. Color artist is Frank Martin. VC's Joe Caramagna on letters. I think what I said was that Empire event. Remember the Empire event? That dud of Al Ewing's? Yeah. I said at one point...
With a Y, Empire with a Y.
Yeah, he was involved in like a discussion on Twitter, and I said something like, I hope... And it was like one issue left, and I said, I hope that everything ties up because this hasn't felt like a big event yet. It just feels like a little stress, something like that. It wasn't being mean. I was actually just talking to somebody. I didn't realize he was even involved. Didn't say anything about the art, nothing with that. And his comment was, the day, because I was Weird Science DC, right, on the Twitter, but we have our things too and whatnot. But he goes, the day I listened to a lame DC fan is the day that I quit drawing. Some bullshit like that. And then I got mad and I said, well, hopefully this is the day, you prick. And then he ended up, he blocked me at that point. But I'm like, all I said was, I hope that things tie up. That's it. Maybe.
I mean, talk about pigeonholing yourself. I
mean,
and then what if DC asked him to do Superman or something?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, what a dick. And I got mad. So ever since then, I even went to the deal where I think he even at one point on he was the one who somehow got a hold because he must have listened to something and said, the name's pronounced Skitty. Okay, shitty. I just read what I see. But you have him here. The art's pretty good. I think the art's okay. Yeah. If the thing is, it's like you just said the issue, Spider-Man should have been darker. I think maybe you get a little more color in this first issue of
it's a little
Cap.
drab.
Yeah, it's very drab, and it should be like one of those where I would play the colors because this
needs to be opposite of Spider-Man.
Cap just came out of the ice. This is legit saying now that Cap came out of the ice around 9/11.
Yep,
around 2001. But to me, I would make it bright because the world would be a lot brighter, even if it's like a phony bright. Even if it's not bright in the idea that it's nicer or anything, but there's so many light. Everything's open all the time. All these things. I think you would play that with that. But in the meantime, you're just you said to me, and I didn't know anything about it. That's why I asked earlier. And I said, how is it? Because you had started reading it before me. And you said, well, it's, when I'm done with Cap year 1, I'll tell you. And I was like, what? And then I read, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what it is. And so in this, it feels, it has a weird generic feel to it. It feels like the movie at points, the Avengers movie, actually. It feels a lot. Then you get mixed in the first Avengers movie as well. But with the idea of, oh, man, Reed ends up, man, my dad was a big, like, he's just Coulson in the movie. Or you end up where Tony's dad, like, and so you have that, but Cap gets out of the ice and he goes to Pentagon because he doesn't want to join up with Tony and the Avengers because he's still a military man. He's going to go to the Pentagon and they're going to look at him and say, I don't know if it's really him. We don't have a DNA match, but it seems like a super soldier program thing. And boy, we're going to do this and that. And I thought what was happening is they were going to get his DNA and start redoing the super soldier program, thus making this one guy we see in this. But it seems like that's been going on already because even that they end up because Doom and like he's causing problems, but this is in the past. They have the what's it called? The embassy. There's the idea. It's like the Iranian hostage situation from back in the day that they took hostages, but they can't send superheroes. The UN has said no superheroes.
Yeah.
And then when they talk about this, you do end up Cap then saying, well, they allow me because I'm a super soldier. I'm an enhanced military and nobody wants to shut down their super soldier programs, meaning everybody in the world has them. So it's not based on him, but it just feels weird. Like I at the end of this, I ended up thinking, I don't hate it, but I don't know what there's to like about it. You know what I mean?
It's just a reset of the timeline. I think that's the goal. Get him more modern. And
I felt
it's tricky too, because at first you're like, this looks like it's modern times, so it's probably not taking place in the past. But then you see an old school Iron Man, which resets his timeline, the whole thing.
That they don't know that Tony's Iron Man and Cap doesn't and all that stuff. And you have this one soldier, he's upset, he's going to bomb things.
I like Cap going right on the Avengers. I don't need him going back to the military.
The weird thing about this is, and I don't know that people would agree, and I'm sure that there's going to be some people who really like this, but we just did that Straczynski run where we spent too much time in the 40s. And you're like, okay, and the idea, or at least spending a lot of time with Nazis. We're like, we get it.
Well,
And this feels like we get it. And most of this actually could have been said in a recap in the front, almost like a Star Wars scroll that was very quick. Cap came out of Vice in 2001. Things had changed, but the United States is gung-ho with patriotism after the Taliban attacked New York City. Cap is thrown into like that. I think could have just been a crawl to get to him then doing some stuff.
I just have problems with it because, like you always say, or we always say, Marvel resets continuities within books, right?
Yeah.
So now this is the new continuity, but you see is everybody else doing this? This seems like it's something that the whole line has to do, which Marvel won't do.
Yeah, or they'll never just bring it up that it was 2001.
And then speaking of J. Michael Straczynski, he did that 9/11 issue with Spider-Man, and Captain America's in that and stuff, and it just seems too recent to
again, it
reset
seems like
this. It's only 20 years ago.
Roll your eyes, but this is why I said, and I, I'm a dummy, but I said people who yell about DC always rebooting. Half the time, it's not a reboot that they say is anyway. And they go, Marvel never reboots, but they do. They
Just as a reboot right here.
They change timelines, and they do have that sliding timeline stuff. But I'm okay with whatever. But I don't know that I need to see Cap out of the ice. I don't know that I need to see the week after Out of the Ice and that it's 2001 9/11 stuff.
That means he was in the ice for like 60 years.
Yeah. And even then, it does throw off a lot of things that he would have already done and whatever. And he doesn't know Bucky's life. Like, he knows nothing.
Yeah, Bucky's not,
and
Sharon Carter stuff.
In the meantime, we have this, redhead, this ginger.
Oh, God.
And pretty much just the 2001, I was going to say now, but this is just Cap again.
It's Cap
just a new
with
version
red hair.
Of Cap with red hair. And maybe a couple more problems. But it is just the same. And it reminds you of the movie. It reminds you of any story that you've ever seen with Cap where he knew that he didn't qualify to be in the Armed Forces, but he wanted to do it. And the only way that I think that they're going, I think that Zdarsky picks 2001 and 9/11 stuff is because that's the only time that you would be able to have a guy like this demanding to be in and eventually them taking them because they desperately needed people. And a lot of people were going.
World War II would be the only times
again,
in
we've
history.
already had that. So now 2001 was just like Pearl Harbor. And so you're doing the same exact thing. I get it. But it feels forced in to just get that for this guy to become a super soldier like Cap. Anytime this happens, it's usually that the person goes nuts. That is bad. But this might be an exception, but then they die. So that's
we've also had those Caps. Remember the Captains America?
We had Captain on the rails.
And there were like 10 of them all around.
And nobody cared.
Nobody cared. That's why it's a hard sell.
The one riding on the rails, everybody but everybody forgot about those now. Yeah, hobo riding the rails Cap, that one. And then there were, I swear to God, I can barely remember any of the others.
There was a girl on a motorcycle, I think, or something.
I think there might have been a little person that ended up in the circus.
A little person.
I'm just making that up. I can't remember. I think one of them was Wayne Gretzky. He was a little old, but they're going to use super soldier.
Is the point.
No. But what we do need now is that one that yelled the hammer time thing in that one. Remember that where they were in Asgard and that nonsense?
And how do you reconcile Steve or whatever, the evil Cap, who's still doing stuff, walking around?
I thought you meant you were talking Urkel. Yeah, you don't. You don't.
Where's that guy?
Go for it. That guy's...
He's doing something in West Coast Avengers,
something, that weird thing. I don't know that he's even doing anything anymore, but...
He's in one of the books. I can't remember which one.
Send him to Canada. You end up where they're doing this, and again, it's like, now we're going to see if Steve's really Steve, and then Steve's... you get Thaddeus Ross. You get Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah, everything's done. But he's too old. Shouldn't he be younger?
Yeah.
It's 20 years ago?
It's not that long ago. The guy's like 900. So you end up where he's like, hey there, soldier, why'd you walk right in the Pentagon? The best would be, here's the question. Hey, you could have went with that damn Avengers. Why'd you walk into the Pentagon? And by the way, how'd you walk into the Pentagon? This shit isn't like you just walk in. But he's like, I'm still a military man and I'm going to serve, sir. And he's like, okay, that sounds great. I love the idea. He's like, how the hell did you do this? Why are you doing this? Because I wanted to, sir. All right, we got a mission for you. We're going to send you right now. We're not even going to really make sure that you're you, but it sounds great. We're going to send you off to Latveria. I kind of think that when he gets to Latveria, that's all bullshit. That I think it's a setup to try to take down Doom in a way that he didn't do anything wrong, but we'll see. I kind of got a weird idea that Cap is going to really wake up the idea that the military might be a little underhanded at points that he would not believe because, everything was kosher and going with him in World War II, even though that was, there's always been times that things are sus. But
that's another thing, though. Doom. Do we want Doom in another book at a different timeline?
No.
And we're going to get it, and we're going to get it in the Fantastic Four next week. What I don't want
is seeing this Ginger. I don't need him just being Cap again and being a fan of Cap. And then, hey, and his mom, like, you know what happened to your brother in Kuwait? He was a hero. Maybe he wasn't. I think that brother did some sus things the way that he stammers. But again, then you have a military where everybody's just beating the shit out of everybody. Then the sergeant, he's beating the shit out of everyone. But when he beats the shit out of this guy, that shows him, you didn't back down when I crippled you and put you into the hospital. Did you think at the point, because he's there, did you think he wasn't going to give him the inhaler so that he died? Because that's what I thought. I thought he was going to kill him. The guy's a real
jerk.
I thought he was going to kill him.
Yeah.
And then you see what I love too is then you are playing weird shit.
Wouldn't he be hooked up to an oxygen machine though?
Probably.
In the hospital?
Yeah, they didn't.
They don't give you inhalers.
So you end up where then it really feels like you're dealing with the Fantastic Four out of the 60s, but now in 2001, right?
Yeah.
And they're fighting, and then I love where Cap shows up, and he's like stealing everybody's thunder now.
It seems like they might be resetting that too.
That's what I'm saying.
That's like the early adventures of...
You cannot. It does. It looks like you cannot take the Fantastic Four out of the 60s. You cannot say that their first adventures was 2000. It doesn't make sense.
I guess it depends on what the movie's doing.
I know there's a sliding timeline, but fuck that. You can't do that.
I agree.
Cap
1962.
But at least Cap, all you do with Cap is say he slept a little longer. Like, okay, right? It still sucks.
Cap's easy to do.
Not Fantastic Four. You cannot do that. Like, if their whole thing is based on that sciencey stuff and the space race and things. But in the meantime, you just have Cap meet with, Mr. Fantastic, Reed, and that's where at the one point the guy comes over. Like, this is Chip Zdarsky's thing, and I actually really like Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil. I should have said at the beginning, I do like Chip Zdarsky. I'm not starting. That Batman run sucked, and I'm not liking this at first because, again, you're doing a book. I understand you have a book and a character that they've done a lot of stories. You always have the same. So he tries to be clever with this Mr. Fantastic. Oh, look, Mr. Hey, I can end up molding my face to look different or whatever. That seems like he took more care on that little thing.
I didn't know about that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But in the meantime, it's almost like, hey, I'm going to show you some new things. Well, how about the whole story? Why are we seeing Out of the Ice? Why are we doing another version of Cap while we get Cap out of the ice? And then you get, and seriously, by the end, when that guy shows up to join the team, I thought it was Bucky because he keeps asking about Bucky and nobody's really telling him shit. But again, it's the sliding timeline of when Bucky, and so it's all fucked up. It's all messed up. But I'm cursing it up. But yeah, this guy ends up where he is invited into the super soldier program because he didn't back down to the guy
moxie.
Almost killing him. So yeah, there you go. And again, it's just the same thing as
Which
Steve.
Makes no sense. They would give it to their most capable soldier.
Yeah,
not this
again,
runt
in the movie, they picked Steve, and it was because he wasn't going to be corrupted by it. And this guy might be the same, but I don't know about him. But in the meantime, too, you say, okay, well, I'm doing this, so please, can you get some lame-ass motocross extreme-looking outfit that could put on Cap?
What is that?
I don't know. And if you were going to do this, make it so... Here's what I would do. This is me. Make everybody have the same uniform as if it's the team uniform. But if people go, oh my God, that's awesome, then it becomes Cap's uniform. But it isn't that. It's just that. And it looks like shit.
It needs this color scheme and a star. I don't know what that is.
And again, they don't say it, but at one point he does say some abomination. So I think it's like, we don't want to have the stars and stripes, the red, white, and blue, whatever it would be. But this just looks like some extreme guy who like jumps out of planes like an asshole. But you end up where they're going to go to Latveria, and there's a safe house. There's where the Latverian underground resistance are going to be. You end up where you have to have the sassy lady come in and just like the Cap. she's like, listen, I'm a Marine. I'm only doing this with Captain America from the Army because I'm made to, because we're Marines, you piece of crap.
And these are the new Howling Commandos.
Yeah, the new Howling. And he's like, hey, Howling Commandos, big name to live up to, soldier. We're Marines, soldier. And I wanted him to say, I didn't say anything, bitch.
And wouldn't it have made more sense to have maybe Nick Fury involved with this instead of Boss? Yeah.
Also, that other guy comes up and goes, hey, Terry Mendoza, folks call me Chill. And I swear, I wish Steve went, oh, hi, Terry.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, I'm not calling you Chill. Like, again, it is funny because that might be a term that Steve's like, why? Do you have like a lower temperature? Do you like it in the army?
Do you like when people shake your hand and grab your neck at the same time?
No, I don't need that. Also looks like he's trying to grab that shield. He's like trying to steal the shield.
He's trying to lift it.
They call me Chill. Well, listen here, Chill.
They call me Klepto.
Yeah, they call me Touchy-Feely. Yeah, and then when's our departure? Like this bitch.
And why is she cocking the gun too? Like, you plan on firing that anytime soon?
It's because if Steve ever says anything that isn't Marine based, she's gonna shoot him right in his pretty ass face. Yeah, so like, wait a minute, 0400. Don't we have any other team? Is it just us? No, we have one. I swear it was going to be Bucky. But even with the thing, but it appears to be this guy. So in that though, they end up saying, okay, here we go. We're not. So we went in the world. I went in the world. How can I stop the bullies? I'm like, I don't really need that. I don't like bullies. But in the meantime, then it looks like now they're in Iraq, maybe. It's just a weird play. Can Captain America make a world a better place? So why is he there at that point? It doesn't seem
the
quick
new
enough.
Cap.
It seems too quick for what was going on, how they kind of went. But it looks like he was there. He ended up freeing Iraq and that, and he'll probably be bitching.
Don't we have enough Caps? We got freaking, what's his name? We got Bucky's a Cap sometimes.
Like more Caps than lids is what they have.
And why does a Cap always need a shield? Give him something else.
Yeah, make it something different.
So annoying. And he's just got that red hair out.
Yeah, I don't like that red hair.
I mean, the military would definitely tell him to cover that up, right?
He's a super soldier. He didn't listen. They'd probably make him cut it. But he's probably like, no, I'm saying
they don't. You're representing U.S. You can't have red hair.
Listen, no gingers allowed outside the base.
When you want to be taken seriously.
I believe either Tom or Brad or ginger.
One of them is, right?
Yeah, I think it might be.
He admitted it. I was surprised he admitted it.
It might be Tom. It's one of them.
It's one of them.
Wish I could remember.
They are synonymous. So.
Yes, people do. But now I'm putting them together. But I did laugh because he's like, you always say bad things about gingers, and I'm a ginger. I'm like, I don't know that we're going to be friends. That's what I said. But yeah, what would you give this?
Oh, hey, I like Chip Zdarsky, but I think I like sex criminals Chip Zdarsky.
I actually like funny Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right? I don't like. I did like Daredevil, but even that went a little too far and too long. But that was pretty good.
I think I like this Batman.
Chip Zdarsky, I love.
You wanted to marry that at one point, then you got divorced. But I like the Batman more than you did. But I think I'll give this one a 6.5. I think
I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not poo-pooing it completely.
I wanted and expected this to be an 8 or above.
Yes, I
really
did too.
Thought with all the troubles, with the hive mind, Lansing and Kelly bullshit, with that Straczynski stuff, which was boring
and
as hell.
10 AC coats before
he
that.
Ended up had 10 AC coats. The Cap books have been a wreck. They have been completely, almost unreadable. I thought Chip Zdarsky was the great pick because he was going to come in with what at least should start with the first 5 issues of a very fun, lighthearted kind of thing. And then you could get deep and then you could get, that stuff. But in the meantime, I thought it was going to start out with a bang with, oh my God. And it did not. It was
they threw too much stuff, too many things at us. And I think you needed to make it a little more simple.
Yeah. And even people were saying, because remember Avengers Twilight, that ended up being, a deal that dealt with Cap and things. And older Cap, it dealt with things. So people were worried. I did see a lot of people worrying that this was going to get too political.
This is a tough one. I was going to say that. I mean, Chip Zdarsky's not shy in his political beliefs. And I think he's going to infuse a lot of that in this.
Well, here's the thing. What I thought was, okay, I get this. He's normally that kind of guy at points. I think this is the time he's going to actually shock people and pull back. Cap usually does have a bunch, obviously it can't help but being somewhat political at points. I thought this was going to be the one that at first he was going to shock people. He's actually going to shock them and actually just have a really fun book. And it
with humor that he's good at and all that.
Really good with it.
Yeah.
Like great at it. But no, not yet. And I don't think that you can go from here to that. It just seems like it's going to kind of get lost in its own nonsense. But we'll see. We'll see. But I'm a 6-year, 6'5". I really wanted to really like this. I wanted this to be, we don't have Spider-Boy anymore. I needed something. And I wanted where Marvel needs to have a point where all new books, we have Fantastic Four #1, same creative team. Next, not this creative team, but same Ryan North.
Yeah, Ryan North.
So when you end up having that, like I thought this was the start. This was going to be like, hey, things got a little wacky, but let's do this. I thought that with Ryan North with a new #1, it was going to be because people do like that book, but it's a little scattered. And I thought this was, a new #1. It's going to be more focused. It's going to have more of an ongoing instead of that, one shot, two shot feel, which again, people probably are like, but I like that. But I thought it was going to mean more. And I thought this was going to be the start that can't we get a bunch of new #1s that suddenly we realized the last 5 #1s were great. And now we actually start paying more attention to Marvel in the way of not just showing up and bitching and moaning because
we did get a #1 that I'm very surprised you didn't want to talk about called Wolverines and Deadpools.
Yeah, no, you know
by
why?
Cody Ziegler.
Yeah, because it's not a new #1. It is a #1. It's the finale to his Deadpool run.
Really?
So get that. It's not a new #1 to do with it. It's actually to end his series as a new #1 to get a mini series out of the ending to do. It's bullcrap. I saw that and I was like, I actually was going to say we should, but no, it's just the end of his run. And they say, I saw these things on League of Comic Book Geeks, like Cody Ziegler announced that Marvel really wanted him to go to issue 50, but he said no, he doesn't have enough story and he wants to go out on top. I'm like, on top of what? Nobody's reading that book. Bull crap. The thing was canceled. Don't get you. If it's doing so well, you don't have a #1 to do a finale. Get out of town. Oh, ridiculous. But it's like it's Deadpool and his daughter.
But it's ultimately another Deadpool and Wolverine book, which we do not need.
No, we don't need it. And it ends up being, like I said, the big thing was Deadpool's daughter in Cody Ziegler's run. So it's her and Deadpool with Laura
X-23.
and Wolverine. Yeah. So it just,
since that Deadpool and Wolverine movie came out last year, there's probably been 10 series, right? Yeah.
And seriously, when I saw that book, even if we were going to decide or whatever, there were 2 things that made me not want to read it. One was Cody, the other was Ziegler. So I'm not doing that.
I agree.
That is not happening. So that is it for me and you.
Weird science is the revolution.